It's very wonderful to see mountain and to want to climb it and put your flat on top of it. It's wonderful to want to create your own mountain so that you climb up and put your flat on top of it. But it's also wonderful to know why you are doing that or why you are compelled to climb mountain in the first place. You might discover that everyone values mountain, but you actually love the sea and perhaps swimming is what you really should be doing, and if you're calling it a mountain, then by all means to climb the mountain. But if you have questions about the sea, you might as well run the experiment and see what happens. Last means you're involved, and if you're not, evolving so incremental changes that build over time to create a lot change, then you are probably dead. And that shouldn't really be a goal of anyone. Like I think every day I get up and I say, what are my priorities? And then I move toward that, and sometimes honestly, my priorities are to see how many back-to-back episodes of whatever I'm watching on Netflix I can watch. If that's kind of introvert Sunday that I need, you know, for dinner to be my best self for hour in the world Monday morning, and sometimes, as you know, how much of my to-do list can I crank through before lunch. And so I tell myself that this to-do list are the things as in so significant compared to the things that I have already done. I have already survived or already accomplished. That is not a much laughable that I think they can stand there on my to-do list. Like they are actually mocking me. And so if you can get to the point where you can say, well, I have already pursued something uncomfortable, or I have already done something that I was able to do. I didn't have skill to do, didn't have the confidence to even try, but yes, circumstance intervened, and I will for sure. I have already done this thing, and had they were different context, maybe their personal context or not a career context, or in my case, they were in the kiddo and not in the side world. But I have already is, but the concept is already is, so what reason do I have to believe that this not going to work again? So not thinking about it and this and trying over new things because you do get a free response to new things because the Dutch operate trying to protect us from, things that might be dangerous that we don't know anything about and realizing that in fact it's familiar task that clock in a new environment. And so I think that there are lots of people say for looking back at our success and not just appreciating them, but really recognizing that the new challenges, in fact, that our dragon we have already slain. A lot of early accomplishments that I have made were because I didn't realize were option, and there's actually a type of method for teaching. I also used to play violin, and I will talk with the Suzuki method. If you look up to Suzuki method, you have all this little 4, 5, 6 years old playing violin. Consider that you know far beyond what you think somebody that I should be able to do, and it's personally told them that they shouldn't be able to do, and so that. Well, basically my reality, I was told, well, you're 11, you're gonna be start was going to college, so I went to the expectation, was supposed to get good grades, so I did. Every time they were go on, but in front of me, I didn't realize you could not accomplish it, so I just did. We will never really know who what would happen if we had made like one different decision, way back there in our childhood. But because the my brain developed, we are more emotionally susceptible to the experiences that we have already on in life and we are later in life. We have to live in a society that's been created for us, and there's segmentation. One is a contributing member of the community that can be accomplished in many different ways. I think if I had a group of young people that was responsible for I would try and listen more than maybe my parents did to what each of them. I certainly wouldn't try many of them because you can't do that, right? But demonstration where they can find people to emulate and to look up to and then ask the right question because the worst thing in the world is to happen is with the mind or have a question and to not know the right people or have the right resources to give an answer. So the youthful brain is still resting, is still developing and is more sensible to information in certain ways in others. I would use story. I would use imaginative language and humor, but there's a certain amount of finishing that happened in those last few years in the early 20, which is the full development of prefrontal cortex, which is set up responsible both for those our ability to think logically and through realistic outcome and also maybe a little bit for us to project the negative outcome as well, right? So optimism follow victim to reality, brain are lazy because part of nature is lazy. There has to be a survivable reason for our energy output, because that's using resources that are important for our survival. So if your brains are lazy and they follow those processes that are easier for them to follow, if you have constantly trained your brain into reframing, that's the first step. The optimistic outcome is the is that to think about, and it has to work very hard to think about the negative one. It's unless it's feeling turned in some way, it will go seem good enough because it's a prediction machine. It's like I predict that is probably what's going to happen. It will be a positive outcome. There might be other factors, but the energy that will be expanding thinking about, but those factors doesn't seem in line with that necessary for the importance of decision good enough. Our brain really don't like to be bored. They get very unhappy if they are under stimulus, and then that can go to solving the problem in many different ways. Not just how can I solve problem short term, but how can I ensure that that's not going to problem in the long run. Emotion when they're not useful, or is it actively disrupt something and how to build my life psychologically. No, that's obviously we are humans, so it's possible. Make emotional decisions all the time, but in your full developing brain, think that there is something that can be done and that they can, always do the right thing and do the right thing is a logical thing. And then as I start to learn about the brain and as I start to learn about myself, I realized that I didn't have a lot of preparation in saying what would happen. It had just let them come. And most people are veteran with this in the delusions, but they don't know what they're experiencing. It's just emotion. They just think, "Oh, this is how I am, and this is who I am," right? They don't think about it a short way. I went to New York and I studied at Alvin. And the school is a very well-known school of modern dance there in Manhattan, and we're gonna be a dancer. But then this was sort of crack in the first side a little bit. I was quite familiar, and when you're a dancer, especially when you're a young dancer, you're treated as if you may have mind of your own, and you're simply a body, and the artistic director and the choreography and teaching they give you the input, you have to give it back. For some, because choreography, it would like you to have many turkeys, have to each, but I digress. All I have for women is them, it is they stop worrying about whether they are fitting in a way that's supposed to be emulating the man or making a point of being female, and then they start just taking things, taking their power, taking their place at the chess table, and that's asking permission for it. And we have all these child women that have had to do that. They have had to take in this so many classes in academia, the ancient ivory tower that is, and they are still there to be broken. But I think for the massive thing, we are always trying to get women in STEM, not And so I think of this like, I hope this isn't offensive, like stop me the pitch that nobody like. We just put enough women into the pipeline, and the fact that it's so leaky won't be a problem. We eventually get enough of them to then to check position. It will be positive feedback loop, and I think that for the massive, it can be really cool to be at your best when you're constantly looking over your shoulder and wondering if being you is enough.